very much, everyone. Yeah, little treat that nobody really knew. I used to, fly around Europe with flight cases of trophies to make sure they got to TV studios on time. It's funny when you're sitting on a plane with a flight case and they're trying to argue that the suitcase is too big and needs to go in the hold. No, it won't. But yeah, thank you for having us tonight. We're pretty much going to take you through the life of owning HMOs, how to start getting them, how to work with them, how to fill them with tenants, how to find the right ones, how to spot the wrong ones, what to do when you've got them, and how to
turn them from a family dwelling into a profitable business, basically. That's what we're here for, isn't it? So,
yeah. So hopefully, about 2 or 3 months ago, House did ask people what was it you wanted to know in these sessions, what type of talks you wanted to hear about. And about 90% of the questions were about HMOs. So he said, Chris, would you mind Curtis coming along and telling us how HMOs in the current market work? Because they're not new. They've been going 10, 12 years, HMOs, but they've come a long way in what tenants' expectations are in an HMO. So, pen works.
Good stuff.
So, we've got a new contraption, and I said to him, "Have you brought the clicker?" He went, "No." Apparently, the pen works. So, here we go. So, hands up. Am I talking alien to anyone? Does everyone know what an HMO is? Does anyone not know what an HMO is? Please be honest. Good. So we're talking the same language. So the regulations have changed in the last 6 months or so. And gone are the days of having a normal HMO, a large HMO, and a food generous HMO. You've now got an HMO or a large HMO. Okay? And the difference is, as you can see there, it's either 3 or more people forming 2 or more separate households. So a separate tenant paying its or their own rental income is classed as a person or a people. And the purpose of an HMO is literally grouping together different households, different separate people living in the same dwelling but sharing amenities. So sharing a kitchen, living spaces, maybe potentially sharing bathrooms, toilets, that sort of thing. You can also have a large HMO with 5 tenants who live there or more, and the regulations have now changed that if you've got 5 tenants living there or more, you now need to have it licensed. And we'll go into this in a little bit. There are differences between licensing and planning. Please don't get the two confused. They are 2 very, very separate issues. And then, as you can see here, these are just definitions of what a household is specifically. And we go into talking about licenses down here. So an HMO is, in a way, regulated by the local council's guide to how they want you to provide living quarters for the tenants that live in their borough. And they will ask you to be a responsible landlord, sign up to a licence which says I have done X, Y and Z, and we'll go through a lot of that today. And they'll charge you for that. And it will be somewhere between £80 and £200 a year, and most licences last for about 5 years. Around here it's the lower end. If you're in London or one of the bigger cities, it's towards the higher end. Anyone own any HMOs around here? Any licensed HMOs? And you're paying roughly? You're the only one? Ours are around about £460 for 5 years, so it's less than £100. Yeah. So it's about that. It's around about the £100 mark. So why invest in an HMO? Shout out. Who's told you it's a good investment, an HMO?
Yeah, higher yield than you would for the same property if you just rented it out as a house.
You certainly would. As long as you manage it correctly.
As long as you manage it correctly.
If one person leaves, you may not be making money, but you're not necessarily losing money.
You're not having to put your hand in your pocket as much. Absolutely. Anything else?
But from a construction point of view, is it easier, harder, same as a single let, do you think?
There's a bit more work involved, but actually you reap the bigger benefit off the top end.
You're right. There's a little bit more work, say 2 times the amount of work, but then 8 times the amount. Do you know what I mean? That's the ratio. Like, you haven't got to put a lot more work in to get a lot more out of the back end, like you say. So it's, don't be scared of changing the entire house into separate rooms. It's not as big as you may think.
So just touching on that, we're all taught to buy low and sell high, aren't we? Yeah. So if you're looking for the dirtiest, scruffiest, run-down house on the street, the time spent making it into something to sell or put back onto the residential market, you might as well spend a couple of extra weeks making it into an HMO. And whether you sell it as an HMO or keep it and rent it out, your passive income or your residual income at that point grows exponentially. Okay? So there's 2 reasons for investing in property. One is passive income and one is passive growth. Passive income is money in your pocket now on a regular basis without asking for it. Passive growth is just expended time and the way property obviously goes up in price. Okay. They give rental yields that can't be achieved by standard buy-to-lets, usually around about 3 times more. We'll talk about the numbers a little bit later on. But one thing about HMOs is you need to stress test them because nothing stays the same forever. Interest rates go up and down, tenant rentals, the cost for tenancies goes up and down. So you need to make sure that if you are investing in an HMO, you're doing this as a business, not a hobby. Okay, and we'll talk about everything that you need to think about for an HMO, if that's the way, that's the strategy that you want to follow. Everything that you need to think about to get the right returns for the investment you're trying to make. We've all heard this, haven't we? Affordable housing is on. It's never been higher at the moment. Flexible housing. People's lives are always getting busier. No one's got time to do anything. They want less responsibilities. They don't want gardens. They don't want to wash their own windows. They want everything provided for them on a plate. But they pay for it, you know. But buying your own house nowadays, especially for the first-time buyers, has never been more of a struggle. So people need people like ourselves that are prepared to, in a way, give back to the community, but you're giving affordable, safe, and suitable housing for the tenants you're trying to draw into your business. Less rental voids, as our friend Peter here said, and less exposure to arrears. There are tax advantages, but I'm not a tax officer. But if you've got obviously a great accountant, they'll be able to tell you what's tax deductible on the costs of renovating your HMOs. Do you want to touch on that quickly?
We'll go into it later.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Got a lot to get through.
But there are some really good advantages for turning your properties into HMOs. So, before you decide that you want to go into an HMO, and I mentioned this to a couple of people just in our networking break, it's about constructing a business or a business idea, a business model of how you want to invest in property. There's no point saying to yourself, I think I'm going to look at getting into property sometime soon in the next couple of years if, you know, the sky turns pink and things fly, and that's not why we invest in property. You have it clear in your mind that investing in property is a good idea because it makes you residual income. So rather than finger in the sky and just seeing which way the wind blows, seriously think about the types of tenants you want to attract, the types of property size you want to have, how much rent you can get per room compared to how much you're paying for the property. Once you determine that, will determine where you start looking for property. Okay? Once you've determined the types of tenant you want, you'll then know in the back of your mind the finish that you need to make your HMO to, whether it needs ensuite bathrooms, whether it needs to be high-end, whether it needs to have good quality furniture or poor quality furniture or minimalistic type furniture. Yeah? How long are your voids going to be? We'll go into the types of tenants a little bit later on. So learn your market. The markets are forever changing. As you can see there's lots of legislation and planning requirements around HMOs. We're not going to cover everything now, but every year something starts to change, and every borough council is slightly different. But 95% of HMO regulations are the same across the board wherever you invest, so room sizes, that sort of thing. But the best thing to do, and we'll come on to it a little bit later on, is get to know your housing officer, your HMO housing officer, and work with them from the day you decide that this property fits your business model. So get them in to view it before you even buy it. Ask them to come and join you on a viewing.
Puts you on the right foot straight away. Throughout the whole project, they'll be your best friend because you're involved in that at the start. Make life a lot easier.
Absolutely. These people write the rule book, they sign off your licence at the end of it, and if something's not right, they'll be the one standing in your way. So you might as well get them on board, as Curtis says, nice and early on, because they'll tell you how they want it, and then you just build it to that standard.
Is it a trick to get them to come out? Because some of them are just, especially grocery stores, online. You can just get information from them, they're just like, go on the website.
Just know what you're talking about, know what you're asking. You wanted to come out to view a property because I think this could work X, Y, Z for this reason. Can you come out and confirm that? Can you come out and have a chat? Just invite them out like you're inviting your friend, but for a specific reason. So perhaps bring them up with an agenda that they know what they're stepping into, rather than, oh, can you come out, see what happens. I don't know what I'm looking at. Come out, I know what I'm looking at, I want you to check this, this and that. And we can go through this evening what checklists are, what we're looking for in a HMO, what you're looking for in a HMO, and get them out for them reasons. And that would work.
So on top of that, Curtis and I generally don't even go to viewings unless we are 85, 90% sure that this house is going to work for us. At that point, we've looked at floor plans, we've looked at size measurements, we've looked at local amenities, we know what the traffic regulations are there because we've done that research ourselves. We know what the regulations are for that borough council. So we'll speak to the HMO officer and we'll say, right, we've got this property, it matches all of this criteria which you have. We want you to come out and give us your blessing that this is the type of property that will fit in your borough, and we'll work with you throughout this process of creating it into an HMO. 9 times out of 10 they will come. They might have to reschedule or tell you a different time to do a viewing. But at that point, you've already done your research. You know that this property is going to work. It's not a first-time viewing, or if it is, you've done that research at home. You understand? There's nothing worse than wasting somebody's time, because they're not there to help you buy the house at the end of the day. You are telling them, this is what I want to do with it. It matches your criteria. Are there any other obstacles in the way that you should be telling me now that should tell me not to purchase this property? That's what you're asking them to do. Okay, cool. Minimum room sizes. So, every house that's generally on the market comes with a floor plan. Sometimes they're to scale, sometimes they're not. There's nothing wrong with you seeing a house like that and then asking the agent for a to-scale room size. Or, if they don't have a floor plan, to-scale floor plan, if they don't have it, ask them if they can go and get it. Okay? Minimum room sizes we should be looking at 6.51 square metres for a single occupancy, 10.22 for a double occupancy. It's not in our business model, we don't look at double occupancy rooms, but we definitely don't start at this end of the scale. We try and make single occupancy rooms at least 10 metres squared, because it kind of then gives us the opportunity, if someone is looking for a double bedroom for twin occupancy, we're already at that level where we could say yes, because most of the rooms are that sort of size. Is that a question?
I was just going to say to the room that this nearly caught me and Stuart out. So in our investment area, the council actually say that the single is 10 metres squared. So, and it can vary in different houses. So we invest up in the north. So I couldn't wrap my head around this. So I ended up speaking to the officer, and she said minus 10%. So 9.3 is fine as long as it's a square room. Don't give us a triangle, because I'll just decline.
That's a really good point, because they class it as usable space, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, and if there's a cubby hole, like where there was a cupboard and it's now gone, or a chimney stack which has now been taken out, they won't class that as usable space, and they'll take a square measurement.
Yeah. So the message is just look at the local area, not just the national guidelines. on the back of that. 'Cause
Take that as, gospel. That's what regulation is. But again, you do your own homework in the area where you've decided this is going to work for my business plan, and you learn the criteria for that specific area. This is like learning a language, guys. If you're going to go and learn how to speak Spanish, you're going to do your homework. You're going to test it out. You're not just going to go to classes and expect to know it all. But also, we're not saying you need to know all of this, because there's plenty of cleverer people out there that actually do know this stuff. So there's nothing stopping you hiring someone or bringing someone on board into your business that knows how to do it. That's just what a smart project manager does. I'm not saying I know all of this, but I definitely know the right people who know all of this, and we make sure they're in the right room when we need to do this and have these conversations.
Just going to make that slightly longer. You've got on the end here minimum heights. So if you've got it, like you said, Ray said, you've got a 10 square metre room, but you're in a loft space and you've got an eave that comes over here. Okay, this space here, to class as usable space, needs to be minimum 1.5. So if you've got a load of space here that's 1.2, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
So it's that 1 point. As soon as it hits 1.5 and it carries on going, it's from that point there onwards that counts as usual space.
So imagine there's
no
a
shed, so
nice makeshift wall at that point there, and all of that is. One thing to be clever about would be, if you've got a room that does do that, be clever about it, put a stud wall in and make that into cupboard space, hanging clothes space, just be creative. Cool. So, one thing everybody should, if you want to invest in HMOs, get familiar with is the Management of HMO Regulations 2006. Okay, this is your standard Bible. This will tell you everything that you need to know about how an HMO should be, and any variations that come about over the courses of the years reflect back to that standard and that regulation, and will become a variation of that regulation. Okay. Article 4. Hands up what Article 4 means, or has anyone asked or been asked what Article 4 is?
Yeah, I know it's relating to areas where there's a lot of HMOs and an additional constraint by the local authority on how many HMOs they'd like to see in that particular area. Is that right?
Certainly is. It's not specifically just about HMOs, but it's a covenant that's put on any type of building type, whether it's an HMO or a construction of a certain type of building, a commercial building or an ice rink or casinos. And Article 4 is a condition of issue put on a specific area in any local council.
Local residents and the council are still concerned about the high demand in that area for things like HMOs, and they don't want to see many in that area.
Yeah, the more HMOs that there are in a certain area will naturally bring down the house prices, and it will also increase usage of public transport, the road mechanisms, dustbin lorries that are obviously collecting waste, bus routes, all of that has an impact on the infrastructure.
And they're worried about the environmental implications.
Exactly.
With a lot of people living in the area.
Very much so. Very much so.
Article 4 direction really means that you can't do things that you would normally be able to do without planning permission.
That's
So
exactly
no
right.
community development rights. So it might be HMOs, but it might just be you're going to have a porch. They do it sometimes in historical areas to stop you from building things that they would normally be able to do. So you can cover lots of different things.
Yeah, exactly. But the point we're trying to make here is, if it comes up, don't ignore it.
Oh, no, absolutely. Find out what they're restricted.
Correct. Yeah. It might just mean you can't have chickens at your house, or something like that. We've got a house. It's got a covenant on. We're not allowed to store chickens on the property from 1864.
Pigs. I've seen no pigs as
No
well.
pigs. Exactly. Right.
I was just going to say, again, going back to the north, so we started out in Sheffield, and there's Article 4 there, as most of you probably know. But it doesn't mean you still can't buy there. If the saturation is less than 20%, planning will approve it. If it's over 20%, it's an instant decline. So knowing little nuggets like that, you can kind of... I don't know if it's the same in Colchester. I'm just speaking in Sheffield where we was before.
There is a clause like that all over the place, and I think that 20% mark is plus or minus a little bit. But you're absolutely right. If you know your market and you've done that research, every time they throw something at you, you should be able to bat it straight back at them with an answer or some sort of covenant. Absolutely. So buying your HMOs usually comes down to buying through a specialist finance provider or a mortgage. We've got a number of mortgage brokers in the room today, and they'll be more than happy to talk to you about products that are available at the moment. And Ian, you're probably right in saying they do change on a monthly basis, so there's always a new product out there. Exactly. Okay. So if you are looking for something, it is very, very good practice to have the right people in your phone who do this on a daily basis to say, right, I have this property, it's looking like it's going to be this many rooms, it's in this area, how much, what's the affordability on it? Because rates will vary and also affordability will go up and down. Okay. What's the least amount of equity you need to put into an HMO buy-to-let mortgage at the moment?
Least, realistically, you probably get away with 20%.
So an 80% loan to value mortgage?
20, yeah, 80% loan to value, yeah.
Yep.
But ultimately, it really depends on the yield, so it might work out. You might have products available, but then you might end up having to put more money into the next bit.
Of course.
One which is, on paper, you might get away with 15, but realistically,
no. But it's knowing the right people. Knowing the right people who can do that for you. Great. Not all properties can work as an HMO. The two main key ingredients is the location and the person demographic that are going to rent from you. So, anyone like to take a guess at how many types of tenants we have? How many types of tenants are out there? If we could categorise them, our tenants, what types of groups of people would we have? Let's start with students. Yeah, so that's one.
Young professionals.
Young professionals. DHSS.
Blue collar professionals.
So we'll split the young professionals into blue collar and white collar because they earn a bit more, some earn a bit less than each other. But also blue collar, I would say, are lorry drivers, van drivers, people working on contracts away from homes. Whereas white collar, I would say, are your more sort of mid-level management who might be on a contract but are more office-based.
Nurses.
And
Nurses.
students, same thing. I would say nurses and students are in that thing. But yeah, we've generally got your students and your DSS in the two lower categories, and then above that, blue collar, white collar, and sorry?
Professionals, doctors.
I would say high-end boutique professionals, yeah, very much so.
Transient workers.
Sorry?
Transient
workers, yeah, exactly. Key that I'm trying to point out here is DSS and or rehabilitated type persons that have come out of prisons or been homeless, etc. You can only mix those two classes together, but I generally wouldn't mix them at all. Above that, you've got blue collar and white collar I would mix, but then I wouldn't mix them with high-end boutique professionals, and I definitely wouldn't mix students with anybody. So learning who you're going to rent to will determine how you finish your HMO and how much money you spend on it. Okay? Bearing in mind, the amount of money you spend on it should have a detrimental correlation to the amount of rental income you get at the back end. Okay? And the art of investing in an HMO is to try and, has anyone heard this, pull all your money out again and do it again?
Yeah.
We'll touch on that in a minute. If you get the persons right and you vet your people correctly before they move in, and here's a key for you, say no to more people than you say yes to, you'll have a happy house full of tenants that actually like each other and will want to stay. There's nothing worse than having 5 or 6 tenants, bringing someone in that upsets the apple call, and you have 2 or 3 tenants move out. You've actually just gone 1 step forward, 3 steps back. Okay? So your tenants are the ones who are paying your pot of gold here. Location. Not all properties work as HMOs all over the country. We use simple criteria to work out where we want to put our HMOs, but we have a business model and we look at large scale properties of 6 bedrooms or more. We look at high-end boutiques, so blue collar workers and above. That's the criteria we look for. We don't look for students. We look for properties that are no more than £250,000, but have a minimum 4 bedrooms. Okay, and we look for areas where if we are going to rent a room out, we will get a minimum of £500 per calendar month for a room, whether it's an ensuite or a non-ensuite. And obviously there's give or take, 10% variations either side. But if we find an area that works in, then we start to home in on street locations, demographics of what people are going to be attracted to that property. Is it near to amenities? Is it near to public transport routes? Are there any parking restrictions? Etc., etc. Because the higher end up that scale you go, the more valuables they're going to bring with them. So cars and bits and pieces that they're going to want to live with, and their expectations are going to go high. So do you think they're going to live in a room this big, or do you think they're going to want to live in a room this big? They'll want their privacy and they'll want their size. Now, if you start to look at rooms that are this sort of size, that don't have a bathroom in there, would you pay more for a bathroom or without a bathroom if you gave them an ensuite? More. Curtis, how much space do you need to make an ensuite?
I can make an ensuite in about 1.6 metres squared, 2 metres preferably, and you'll fit all your bits in there comfortably.
So if you can find a house that's got average floor space in all the rooms at 10 metres squared, you can put an ensuite in it for 2 metres squared, and you're still above the minimum threshold for the size of the room that you need. And how much extra would you get for an ensuite?
Talking one extra 60, 70 quid maybe?
Maybe. Let's say £100.
Yeah.
£100 over a year, 1,200 quid. How much does it cost you to put in an ensuite?
1,200 quid.
1,200 quid. So in a year it's paid for itself. So why wouldn't you?
But a lot of the competition would have ensuites anyway, so it's not very sensible to do a converted HMO without the ensuites, because the competition will come in and just stick their ensuites in it. So.
Absolutely, if you're going for the high end. If you're going for students, they couldn't afford that. So if your business model was low end, DSS, guaranteed rent, or students, they're not necessarily going to want it. But if you did it and you gave it to students, they're not going to pay the extra, so why would you spend more money?
But also, it depends on the local authority, doesn't it? If they're going to charge people council tax because they're seen as a autonomous room dwelling.
I know where you're getting at here. So there are areas in the UK that are changing their regulations and charging a council tax per occupant of your own room. In this area, in Suffolk, Essex, Norfolk, I'm not aware that regulation change is coming into effect. Up north, is it?
Not in our area. But if they did, you just put the rents up.
No. The point I'm trying to make here is, if you take that into consideration and factor it into your room rents and increase your room rents by £20 a month per se, across 6 rooms or 5 rooms, let's do the maths easy, 5 rooms, that's 500 quid per month, across a year that's £6,000. Do you think you can afford your own council tax and include it anyway?
Yeah.
There you go. In Ipswich, we've tested the market and we've achieved 685 on a room that we were about to go into, then we didn't. But yeah, it's getting close to 700 at top end. It really is. You pay your own. It's included in the bill, but it's getting there. That snowball effect out of London is coming. I wouldn't say it's there yet, and I'd say the average price in Ipswich is probably 500, 525 per room. No? Okay. Where are yours, by the way? Your HMOs. Okay. Just am I off with that mark? Are they a lot lower?
Well, you're talking 40, depends like you said at the mark.
Okay.
You're talking 400, 255, 550 max. You never get 7 generally. Unless it was.
Are you renting to that high end, or are you? Yeah. Okay. Interesting. But that's what the market research is there for, isn't it? You know, you get out there, you test the water, you put your dummy ads out, you pretend that you've got something and see what people are prepared to pay, and that's how you make your decision. Is this a house that I want to get involved in, or is this a house I don't want to get involved in? You know, a deal is a deal to you if it fits your model. If it doesn't fit your model, it might be a deal to somebody else who might have a lower end model, who might not put as much money into it. You know, who might only spend £20,000 or £30,000 on a refurbishment rather than £100,000 on a refurbishment. But the variations are all over the place. And HMOs are definitely changing, 100% changing. We've got HMOs where we know students are paying £550, £600 a month in Colchester.
There are some Ipswich that have got 308.
Yeah.
For one each room.
Yeah. If you can fill it with some nice electrical devices, they'll definitely pay.
Good charging points at least.
Yeah. And it.
Yeah, on that square meters for double room.
Yep.
Does that include
No, that's minimum space for two persons to occupy a single space. So you'd have to go another two on top of that to put in an ensuite. Okay? But good question. So, and we've touched on this. I mean, capital growth can be lower, but replaced with passive income from an HMO, because you have, even if you have a void, you've got more tenants paying to pay for that property than just one tenant or two tenants that are in your space for you already. And it comes obviously on a monthly basis. There are obviously higher startup costs than a standard beta-let, because you're not just putting in one bathroom or one kitchen here or there. If you're going into a kitchen, especially with 6 or more tenants, you need double hobs, you need definitely a ring for each person. So you might be putting in 2 cookers, 2 hobs, 2 sinks, 3 sinks sometimes, fridge, freezers, and all the other utilities that go in the property. But in ours, we literally give them everything, right the way down to the cleaning products. So we give them a service, so we give them cleaners on a weekly basis, give them, the right TVs, we give them soft sofas to sit on, etc., and they pay for it because it's like going into a hotel.
It's our house, but it's their home.
It's exactly that. We market ours as a home away from home, and that's how you can look at those variations. Right, Kurt, do you want to have a chat?
Covered a lot in the first 15 minutes. If we get them all out, we can just have a bit of a Q&A, I guess. Professionals. Chris touched on it earlier. You've got your solicitors, you've got your mortgage brokers.
What do you call it? Power team, right?
Well, yeah, power team, if you like. HMO officers, he, she, definitely be in there. These are the people that you want to be instructing, or at least talking to very, very early on. But before you even look at a property, you need to be talking to these people about the sort of time you're going to be talking with your contractors, or if you haven't got one, at least vetting them, going through a few of them, see their past work, try and find some current work if you can. If they've got a site going on, try and visit their site, see what their toilets are like, see what their canteens like. These are all telltale signs as to what they'll be like going forward. So yeah, before you even start any sort of work, you're talking to these people, and after you talk to those people, or even same time really, Chris talks about earlier, dummy ad. So you're putting out an ad which is basically what your ad's going to look like once you've got your HMO. It's going to have pictures of your room, spec, rough area, room rates, things like that, and get a gauge for the area. So if you're looking on, say, spareroom.com, and you've got 20 rooms available, but you've got 40 people looking for rooms, that is a great telltale sign. If you're in a good area, you've got double the amount of people wanting rooms than people actually supplying rooms. So you put your ad on there with them and just see what sort of feedback you get. If people come to you and say, yeah, I want your room, so I'm sorry, it's not ready yet, or whatever, it's going to be ready in a few months' time. If they want to hang around, great. If not, just take the details, and then when it's ready, you can give them a call. Great thing about people in these sort of circles, they've generally got friends, family that are maybe renting as well or looking for a room. So if right now they want a room, you're not ready, but in a few months' time their friend's ready, they'll happily pass you your details. So you already, before you even looked at a house, you're gauging an area, but you're also potentially filling a room. You know, these are the sort of things you want to be looking out for very early on.
And there's nothing, and just touch on that, there's nothing wrong with putting out a dummy ad of what you think's going to work and also what you think is not going to work, and just seeing how many replies you get for both, because you might be completely way off. The person demographic for that area may be higher in the student model rather than the blue collar worker or the white collar worker. You might want to try and achieve this, but it'd be like putting a square peg in a round hole, trying to force something to work that's not actually going to work in that area. Back to the point I was saying that HMOs will work, but only certain types will work in certain areas. So test all of it, see what works the best. Because if you've done all of that research before to say that the cost of the property is where it needs to be, you think you can get room rents at a certain rate, yeah, and I mean, there's a few other things we look at, like minimum 500,000 people in an area. It's got to have a major hospital. It's got to have a major school or university.
10-minute walk to train station, 10-minute drive to hospital, things like that.
So if it ticks all of that, so you've got your catchment area or your goldmine area, and then you've got your micro area and your macro area, and you just home in and home in and home in. If it still ticks all the boxes, then put all the dummy ads out that test all of the markets and see which one works. Okay.
What you got?
So, sourcing it. So we've just touched on location. Hit them with the size.
So, Chris touched on it earlier. Before we even go to view a property, we do our due diligence on Rightmove or wherever you look at your properties, agents, from floor plans basically. From knowing the area, we've got a power team in place, we know the location, now we're looking at floor plans. And for me, I like to make sure that HMO, you see the front doors here?
So this is ground floor,
first
floor, second and third.
You've got a hallway that goes all the way through to a kitchen or all the way through to the stairs, and you've got rooms coming off that hallway. So it means when it comes to splitting up your HMO, it's very easy to split up because you've already got that hallway there. The same when you go up the stairs, you go up the stairs, the hallway connects all the rooms, and if you've got multiple floors, so on and so forth. It just makes life so much easier and cheaper to refurb a house that's already got a pretty good layout like that.
So this was a house we actually bought.
Yeah.
When we came in, this room was one big room and was an open plan kitchen and living room.
Yeah.
This was the basement, which was very dark and damp and pretty horrible. Staircase up to first and second floor with obviously an annex and a converted bedroom up at the top. Mm-hmm. But they were just using it as a storeroom, weren't they? This was one big room, if I remember rightly. Had an archway here, balcony at the front, one big room. This was a bathroom.
That was a bathroom.
No, sorry.
It was a bedroom. It had an ensuite.
Bedroom and an ensuite. That was a bathroom.
Yeah.
That was two separate rooms, and that was like a storeroom. Yeah. Okay. So technically, 3-bedroom house, but across 3 floors.
Yeah.
Any idea what we turned it into?
7.
8.
6 ensuite.
8 bedrooms, 6 ensuite.
Are there any regulations for the basements about escape or fire?
There are,
It's like a normal room.
but it is just treated like a normal room. There are certain things that need to not be in the walls and around that room. So there can't be main gas pipes. There can't be any naked flames.
Some areas, we'll touch on it a bit later when it comes to construction, but generally everywhere needs to be 30-minute fire regulations, doors, walls, things like that. In some areas, sometimes they ask for the basement to be 60 minutes. But check with your HMO officer.
You don't have to have an escape window.
Well, the basement, this has got 2 windows as well, both big enough to get a person through.
Has to have natural light. Every room has to have natural light. Yeah.
Can't be completely concealed in a basement. Yeah. Like under the house. Yeah, exactly. Got to have natural light.
You like light shoots or
No.
No, it has to be a window. Yeah.
Growing grass and Twickenham, right?
Let's go to the top room here. So we talked earlier about the minimum square meterage of a room. Perfect example up here, there's eaves. This is right in the loft here. So this actually is just under a double occupancy because the usable space is actually probably about here because it dives down to sort of a metre. So that space there was classed as unusable. So measure the floor, it probably works out double occupancy, but it's actually single for the fact that you lose that space there. So had to get a bit creative.
So when you're making an HMO, you've got to then think about obviously your budget. Now your budget will be determined about obviously the scale and the quality of your finishing that you're going to do. Now if you are going to touch on producing en-suites into all of your bedrooms, what do you think your most expensive element of your refurbishment is going to be? And we're talking probably 30-35% of your costs. Plumbing. Yeah, plumbing, water and drainage. The reason being, if you've then got to add in 7-8 different bedrooms, get the pressure to all of those showers and those taps, etc., you've got to have a pretty high-class plumbing system going on. So,
yeah, I'm not sure if we can touch on it later on in the slides, but I'll talk about it briefly now. So, Chris talked about earlier how these are great big rooms, and we split them into different rooms. You notice here, these are the en-suites, okay, and they're strategically placed, so they're either back to back or stacked on top of each other. Just to minimise that work, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Bearing in mind this is a terraced house, so there's no space on either side of the property.
We've got 5 toilets there that are either back to back or stacked on top of each other, which means you've got 5 toilets going into one pipe. So rather than 5 different pipes coming out, you're all going down, they're all going to one, so then they'll go down and straight into the manhole, just one pipe. Makes life so much easier. You don't want to mess around with macerators. If you know what they are, they mash everything up and put it through a smaller pipe. When they go wrong, and someone's got to clean it up. So get it out, get it out naturally. 4-inch pipe, how we normally do it, and get it out with a system like this. Just basically try and back them up, back, or stack them on top of each other.
Cool. So we would have done at this point 80% of our research. We know the area's good. We know the person demographic is correct. We know what our room rentals are likely to be. First time we went and viewed this, we liked it. Second time we went and viewed it, we had the HMO officer with us. Third time we went and viewed it, we bought it. But the first time we went to look at it, you had already done your curbside appeal, and at that point,
here we go.
You knew exactly what you were looking for.
So Chris touched on it earlier that before we look at a property, we do the due diligence on the last slide where we make sure the layout's right and we've got the team in place. I'd say by that point I'm about 75% sure whether that's a good property. So it's a pretty good odds. I'm literally turning up to the property to make sure it's not falling down. It is what they say it is basically. And to make sure that I'm that last percentage of making sure it's a good deal, I'm actually finding that out just from me parking here to walking to the front door. So as I've pulled into the street, I've looked at what's in the area. Is there many boards going up? You may not see it on the internet, but you'll see boards, to let boards, sale boards. You want to know what's going on in the area. Then you pull them out the front, and literally, we're going to talk about it. It may take, I don't know, say 10 minutes, but this is like a 60-second check. Once you've got through the slips, it literally takes you 60 seconds as you're walking up. So as you're walking up, you're looking at the ridge line. See how it's nice and straight?
Yeah.
If you've got a ridge line that's doing that, obviously you're going to walk into all sorts of problems later on in life with the roof replacing that. So just making sure visibly that that's nice and straight.
Bear in mind, if you can touch it, you can get anybody to fix it. If it's too high, you've got to pay to get people up at height. So it's obviously going to be more expensive.
So you're starting at the top, like it says, and working your way down. If you've got a chimney stack there, that's fine. Just visibly make sure you see this lead flashing around here. Make sure it's attached. Make sure it's doing its job. Basically, making sure that again the chimney stack is fairly upright. Make sure it's not leaning over or about to fall, and then working your way down. So as you're working your way down the roof, you're making sure all the roof tiles are there, they're present, they're not cracked, they're not holy. If you do see a cracked one or one missing, just bear that in mind because it's going to come in to your favour a bit later. As you're working your way down, you're going to do another visible straight line check at your fascia and soffit point, which is here. Again, that's the end of your rafters, your roof. If they're all over the place, then you've probably got wonky walls at that point because the roof sits on top of the wall. So again, visibly making sure that's there. Ideally, you want to see some ventilation there. If you haven't, that's not an issue. But if you haven't see ventilation there, so you'll see little vents, bear that in mind. It's going to come in to your favour in a little while. Then you're going to start looking at windows and walls. windows, what are they? Are they wood, they're plastic, they're sash, what are they, what condition are they in? Bearing in mind, you know, windows can be expensive if you've got to replace them all, but if they're in fairly good nick, you know, like if they're double glazing already and they're not misted and they look okay, just bear that in mind. Take note of the walls. What is it? Is it facing brickwork? Is it render? What sort of finish is it? If it's brickwork, making sure it's all there. It's all very standard stuff. If it's render, make sure it's all there. Make sure it's not blown. If it is blown in an area, like if there's a piece missing or you can see a bubble in it, again, just make a mental note because it's going to be in your favour soon. Basically, what you're looking out for is that everything's there and any clues of damp. So if you had that missing tile, if you had a dodgy window, if you've got a blown wall, you're looking for damp. Okay, that's
damp-proof cladding, by the way, if you of course. Damp, of course, yeah. Proof, of course, yeah.
So we come down the wall, as Chris said, your DPC. This is a black line that runs around the perimeter of the building. It should be at least 150mm, which looks about that. If you've got brickwork there, it'll be 2/4 brick. It's got to be at least that. If the ground is up here somewhere, again, that's going to be probably another source of damp because when surface water hits that, it splashes up, it causes all sorts of problems. So make sure you've got that gap basically. You see a black line and the ground there, perfect, absolutely fine. And that's it. It sounds like I waffled on a bit, I probably did, but you're just looking out for these telltale signs, making sure it's all there. Is it square? Is there any visible damp? Basically.
If it's single brick thickness, then you need to watch your energy efficiency.
What do you mean?
If it's only single.
Oh, single. Sorry. Yeah.
Work,
Yeah.
Then you need to be careful about your energy.
Massively. Yeah.
Massively, because
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't got that cavity there or any insulation or.
There's no cavity there.
Yeah, it's just it's going to be a nightmare going forward.
You have to clamp the outside and put some energy efficiency.
Yeah, exactly right.
And if you're going down that route, it's probably not the right building. Square peg, round hole.
Yeah.
Walk away.
Yeah.
No, I know someone who's done it.
I'm not saying no, but it's definitely an area that you should say be cautious here. Yeah, definitely.
Depending on the construction of a building, you may have air bricks under the floor. If the floor is solid, you won't have air bricks. But if it's a hollow floor, wood or concrete, but hollow, you'll have air bricks around at DPC level. If they're there, just make sure they're efficient, they're not clogs, things like that. Just it's very, very basic stuff, just making sure that they're working, because if they're not, another sign of damp. So by this point, you're at the front door. It's literally taking however long it's taken to walk in the car. And by this point, I am pretty sure that I'm going to buy or not buy this house just from walking from the car to the front door, basically. We talked about earlier about just jotting down in your head. There was a missing tile. There was that window up there had some mist in it. I see a bit blown render down there, or there may have been a blocked ventilation at the bottom, at the top. As soon as you walk through the door, if you smell damp, it's not a bad thing, but you can say to the agent or the owner, smelled damp as I was walking, I noticed that was missing, this was broke, that was back. Man, this is going to cost me a fortune to fix this. This doesn't smell right, and everyone can smell damp. There's no getting away from it, and you can visibly say, I've seen this and that. It just helps negotiation, doesn't it? I can smell damp.
But a good thing is, if you know what's causing it,
yeah,
okay, you know how to fix it.
Yeah.
So if you've got estate agents that are on your side, at the end of the day, they're trying to sell a house to make commission, and they're obviously working for both sides, your side and the vendor. So if you're working very closely with an agent, and he knows you'll look at stuff like this, because you know how to fix it, he'll start bringing you some of this stuff when they've done the valuation, before it's even gone to market. And at that point, if you can get in there and make a tempting offer, might be below market value or what the seller's expecting, but you get on side with the agent who's going to sell it for you, you might even be able to get the deal in there done, because you're not scared to do stuff like this, because it might not be you doing the work, but you've got a good team around you who know how to do this work. Cool.
So you're in there, you're at the front door, you smell a bit of damp, you've let everyone know that you know there's damp, and in your head you know it's not that hard to fix because you've seen what caused it on the outside, perhaps. Now you're in there, get yourself, they'll probably have one, if not bring your own, but the floor plans. And what you're going to do that is make a map. You're going to walk around the building, asking various questions, knocking on walls, is it solid, is it stud work, what is it, what's it made of, just jotting on your map. stud, wall, whatever, walking around, where are your services, where's your gas, where's your water, electric meter, where is everything, mark on your map, and just walking around the house marking where everything is. So when you walk away from the viewing, you've got all the information. You've got the stuff on the internet ready and the real life interpretation of what's actually there. How are your ceilings? Basically, you're testing the floor. If you walk into a room and then suddenly you're going that way,
you've had a good night.
Yeah, you know, obviously the floor's way off. Again, it is a cost, but it's not the end of the world. But it is bargaining, isn't it? Oh, I've got damp, the floors all over the place. You know, this is all in your favour when it comes to talking price. Obviously,
9 times out of 10, any house that you see subsidence or slopage in or anything like that, you'll see on the market 6 months later. So my advice is go and see it, put in a really silly offer. You know, I mean, talking silly offer, because in 6 months' time, if it's still on the market, they might come back to you. You might be able to fix it for half the price of the difference. Let's say they asked for 200 and you said, I'll give you 130 for it, so you've got 70 grand variation there. They're obviously not going to sell it at that sort of price, but in 6 months' time, they might come back and go, well, how about 150, 160? You've saved yourself 30 or 40 grand, and you know it might only cost you 20 grand to put it right, so you're still quitting. So always put in silly offers. Always put in an offer, even if you're not serious at buying it, because you can even reject it at a later point.
As you're walking around, you would have found out the motivation, so that would have helped with that. And rinse and repeat. So you once you get this viewing whole sequence down to sort of a fine art, if you like, you can rinse and repeat. You can do loads of these viewings in a day, but they're very educated viewings because you've already done your due diligence at home. You're there on the day just to make sure it's not falling apart. So you could literally walk away, say you've done 5 in a day, you know 100% whether that's 5 good deals, 5 bad deals, a mixture. Like there's no questioning from that viewing. I know 100% if that's a good or bad deal.
Cool. And another thing, if you're finding deals and you know people because you come to meetings like this and you're finding deals and you can't afford it or you're too scared to do something with it, there's definitely someone in a room like this that will help you, partner with you, or even take the deal from you for a price. So get out there, do the viewings, because even if you don't buy it, you can make money out of it. Cool. So, on your marks, get set, go. This is where you get your demo team in.
Yeah,
we'll skip through this quite quickly.
Yeah.
But generally, this is where your principal contractor will come into effect. So if you're not a builder or you don't know a building firm, you'll employ someone to pretty much come in and do your refurbishment. And at this point, you've done all your drawings, you've done your draft sketches, you know exactly the finish that you want because it's going to match your demographic.
This is literally, you've done everything as Chris said and you've got the keys. So from day one, you don't need to know this, but if your builder's in, you kind of know what they're going to be doing basically. If you are running it yourself, try and run it like this and you'll have a smooth job. But basically, demo teams in, rubbish out, first fixers. Basically, you start at the top. So you start at the top, right at the back, and work your way out the front door. First fixers in, so it's your walls going up, stud walls if you're doing en-suites, things like that. They'll move down to say the next level, next room. Behind them, the tackers start. So they've already put up one side of the wall. At this point, the demo team are made by the front door. So you kind of like all teams are working out towards the front door, but they're kind of all on site at the same time if you can work it this way. Then plasters come in, they'll start at the top. You've got first fixers? Yeah, first fixers are in. So that's the first fix, plumbing, electric, things like that. So basically, everyone is kind of working in sync as they come out the front door. So literally at the bottom, we've got people still demoing, but we're at the top, we've got plasters starting.
What would you say is fair expectation to put on a builder in terms of time frame for a back to brick 3 to 5 bed conversion, for example?
Well, we'll show you a case study in a minute of what we did it at. But I mean, Curtis will tell you that he's a ball buster.
It's so many, how long's a bit extreme.
I mean,
so many things could go wrong.
Is this a new build house you're converting? Is it a 100-year-old Victorian house you're converting that all the plaster needs to come off? What is it?
Yeah, back to brick, just an ish. What's fair and what's unrealistic? Just an ish.
It's hard to say. It really is. I mean, if you're looking for a meterage refurb, perhaps. So if you wanted to look at a building and work out how much it's going to cost, if you budgeted, say, normal end £700 a square metre to refurb it, 900 quid top end.
Oh, sorry, mate. I meant
And
time,
that-
I
yeah,
meant
but
timeline
that-
to do it, not cost. So in terms of 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 20 weeks, I meant timeline. Sorry.
If you've got a decent team, I would say you can get most stuff done within 15 weeks. Yeah, not just back to brick, start to finish. Back to brick should be done a couple of weeks. Demo to tackers
The demo doesn't
per
take long.
room doesn't take long, a couple of days,
The beauty of doing a system like this is
because you're not doing the whole house. Don't forget, you're doing room by room.
if you've got all the trades on site, you've got demo people on site and first fixers and possibly tackers on site. That's how you can minimise the project time, by having more people on site, not having to work on top of each other, but in separate rooms, and then sort of leapfrogging your way out the front door, basically. That's how I run a site. And then second fixers come behind them, and so on and so forth, until you get to a point where everyone is working their way out the front door. So you've got a finished room at the top, half finished there, not so finished there, and you work your way out to the bottom, work out the front door. In an ideal situation, that's how you want it.
We'll show you a quick case study, and then we're going to sort of wrap stuff up of that last project that we just showed you, that floor plan of what it looked before, how we did it, what it ended up being like afterwards, and the timescale spent. But ultimately, as Curtis said, if you start at the top, work yourself out, people will leapfrog over each other. You can not just think about having your first fixes in at this period of time, when your tackers in and your plasterers and your painters, etc. If you did it that way, a refurbishment might take you 6 months, rather than 60 days. So, this is what this place looked like. As you can see, shop next door, another house here, 3-storey house with a basement, terraced as such, beautifully decorated inside. This was the room at the front, and this went all the way back here. That was the room above it. This was a balcony, and that was the front kitchen. So it was a kitchen, living room, massively high ceilings, beautiful drapes, and I think it was a green and yellow colour, if I remember right.
Yellow.
Lot of yellow. Sorry? Did we reuse them? Yeah, we put them on the floor
Dust
and
sheets.
built paint on them. Some good dust sheets. So that's what it looked like before. We went in. They were asking for, I forget how much they were asking for. Oh, 200. Offers in excess of 200,000 for this property. Massive, as you can see. I think square footage on this property was 172 square metres, so quite big. 200,000. I'll talk you through the numbers afterwards. We nearly exchanged at 206, and then another bidder came in at the last minute and helped push us up a little bit. But yeah, we knew we were onto a winner with this one, and we had some variation in the price we could offer because we knew who was going to be doing the refurbishment work, so we knew how much that was going to be. So that's what it looked like before, and this is what it looked like afterwards.
So by this point, we've changed the kitchen. So legislation says that you can't be 2 floors away from the kitchen. So where this was split over 3 floors, the top guy would have had to, or girl would have had to have gone too far to the ground floor to get to the kitchen. So what we did is move the kitchen from the ground floor to the first floor, and that got over that basically situation.
Yeah. So this kitchen's got 2 exits. It's got a door at the back down into the garden, obviously a door here which will then go back into the house. So again, from a fire regulation point of view, it's got 2 exits, 2 other windows. As you can see, we've got 2 hobs, 2 ovens. There's another one down here. All your electrical appliances. This was a chimney stack. I think in the back corner here was a shower, if I remember rightly. So that's all come out. And then the bedrooms all ended up looking like this, with en-suites, good colour schemes, and we use the same colours in all of the properties that we do. And then that just means it's really easy for any painters and decorators to come in, because they know the colours that we've got, the RAL colours, all the charts that we use. They know what the decorations are going to come by, and it's literally just place the order, and the guys come in and do the works.
Same brand every time, same colour. It just makes life easier.
Absolutely. So you can see here, this was this room here connected onto that balcony room that I talked about here. So we put a stud wall in here, put 2 en suites side by side, back to back, and these are walk-in wet rooms. Shower rooms don't have the trays. They're sloped floors with a big plug in the middle. Showers just spray out. What's the plastic on the walls?
So it's a hygienic wall cladding. You find it in a lot of restaurants, places like that. It's like they call it sheetrock. It's just sheets of plastic. You can get different colours, different styles. It's just very hygienic, very easy to clean, very low maintenance. Going forward, you rarely have to do anything to them. They're really easy to maintain.
And it's panels you stick on the wall?
Just panels you stick to the wall, special adhesive, special trims for the corners and then the bottoms for the drips. And you just literally, you'll have your bead along the bottom, and your upstand for your floor will go into your bead, and your plastic will go into that, and you weld your corners, and it's really easy. You won't get any, say like a shower tray, you'd have like maybe that bead might be ineffective at some point and that would leak. You don't get that with this. You literally don't get it. So really, really effective way of low maintenance going forward.
Yeah. Easy on the cleaning, easy on maintenance, because it's one sheet of plastic, obviously sealed all the way round. Unless you physically break it, there will be no cracks.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter about the size of the person using it. Sometimes if you put shower trays in, someone who's a little bit heavier might crack the side of it, or might crack the tray, or you might get seepage of water down below, and you won't know it until it starts leaking through the ceiling, and then you've got a bigger problem. So,
Do you put screens in? Or do you put screens in?
a couple of them have got like a shower screen. These have got just shower curtains, but some have got some screens in. Yeah.
Where the floor slopes away, it's just effective. It hits a curtain, goes down, and the whole room has got a slight fall to it. And then obviously when you get to the shower, it's like a bowl. You've got more of a slope. Yeah.
You'll have been into them if you stayed in a hotel, and maybe stayed in an accessible room or something like that. So that's exactly what we've done there. So this is now an 8-bedroom, 6 en suite HMO. Started off as a 3-bedroom, 3-storey house with a basement. It's got a massive, great living room with 50-odd inch TV in there. Great big L-shaped corner sofa, double kitchen with occupancy there for people to eat at. And obviously that's where we've been adding the value. So by looking at how the property flows, the privacy and the space that you're giving to everybody, the en-suites and the space for people to bathe in their own living quarters is a big attraction to these tenants if you're looking at the high-end type model. As you can see, this is now a floor plan of what we're looking at. This was obviously a ground floor, so this is now 2 bedrooms, en-suite, one here. Sorry, not bedroom, this is the living room. En-suite here, this was the kitchen, this is a bedroom, separate toilet, and this was the space of the staircase that comes down from the upstairs kitchen. And we literally went through the wall, under the staircase, and built a shower under the concrete staircase that was outside, just to utilise the space a little bit better. And then as we go upstairs, kitchen is now what was a bedroom, 2 bedrooms, another 2 bedrooms. This was a bathroom, it's now a bedroom. This has been turned into the boiler room.
Yeah.
How big was the boiler?
It's huge.
Feed all of this?
Yeah, it's a huge, great big
400
storage,
litres?
great big boiler. Then we've got great big, I don't know what the litre is, but it's a great big cylinder, ready to, so everyone could have a shower at the same time, basically. It's very rare that it ever happen, but we've got the ability to do that.
Cool. And then we came upstairs, and because we lost the height, we built a cupboard into the eaves up here to ensure that they've got some built-in cupboard space. Because of the eaves, we couldn't get a full high wardrobe in there without losing more of the usable floor space. So we just got creative and went from there.
Talking about, can you go back quickly?
Oh, sorry.
Just creating space. As Chris said, sometimes you'll come into a property where you'll have 2 rooms. So you imagine that wall goes through there, and this room is, I don't know, 17 square metres, and that's 10 square metres, but you still want to make double occupancy and ensuite. So the best way to do that is, if you put the ensuite for this room in this room, and make a doorway through, and then the ensuite for this room in here, this only goes down to, say, I don't know, 12, 13 square metres, so you've still got your double occupancy. You've got 2 toilets in here with only access to 1, and you've got your 10 square metres there. So you've got double occupancy there, and basically what you've done is you've stolen a piece of land or floor space from this room for that room. So you're able to get 2 rooms, double occupancy with 2 en-suites without affecting the size of this room, just by stealing a piece of the larger room. It's a good way of
Just go through that ground floor because I can't see it.
Here?
I can see that's a nice, simple, self-contained bedroom.
No, that's a living room.
Right.
That's the living room, a couple of sofas, TV on the wall. This is a bedroom with patio doors out to the garden, ensuite, which is here. The original wall was here, but as Curtis has just said, we knocked through the wall, stole some space out of the living room. So literally, let's say this was the bedroom, we knocked through that wall, stole some space from that room, made that into the ensuite. This room then stays above the double occupancy space, even though it's marketed as single occupancy. If we needed to, we could put double occupancy in 6 of these rooms and increase the rent, just by space
How do
utilising
you get to
properly.
the room at the back?
So as you come in here, you go straight up a staircase. This is a basement room. So this is a staircase going down. This is a staircase going up. Going up here, you end up into the kitchen. And then staircase will circulate all the way up to get you to the other ones. Cool. Brilliant. So at that point, we filled it with tenants. And they loved it. And I'll quickly touch on the numbers now. Take me about a minute to run through exactly what this cost us, what we got out of it, and exactly where we're staying at now. So hopefully you can see that. We ended up paying $232. Like I said, we'd agreed at $206, and I was rubbing my hands at that price, and then someone came in and pushed us up. But I could go to $240. I knew my threshold was $240 on this, knowing full well that I was looking at pulling my money out of that. At $240, I was going to leave around about 10 grand in the deal. So anything below that, I knew we were quitting. Refurbishment, because of the high standard we went to and all of the en-suites, we spent about $85,000. So if we add the 2 of those together, we were all in at about $317. Okay. We put down a deposit on a 75% loan-to-value mortgage. So the cost of the money that we borrowed in the mortgage was $331,400 out of what it cost us to buy it. On 8 bedrooms, full occupancy, we're making £4,200 a month on that one house. Which means around about 50% of that is net profit. There is a quick calculation of how I would value your HMOs. The first 2 rooms, rental income, should pay for your mortgage if you bought this on a 75 or 80% loan to value mortgage. First 2 rooms will pay for your mortgage. 3rd room will pay for your utilities. Your 4th room will pay for any voids and the rest of your utilities. So you need at least 4 rooms at this sort of value to be breaking even. Anything above that should then technically then be profit. So we ended up, because we went to 8 beds, we spent a little bit of time with the planning officers. We changed the use, and I'll bear this in mind. We converted it into 8 bedrooms, but for 6 months we only rented out 6. Prove to the council that if we went for planning, if there were any objections about there's going to be too many people there, too noisy, too many cars, blah, 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 we could prove that at 6-person occupancy, it didn't affect the local area. So what's an extra 2 people going to do? So we ran it at 6 months at 6 persons, but we did all the work for 8. We just shut the rooms. We just didn't rent them out. 6 months came, we put in for planning. Lo and behold, someone said, oh, it's going to be too noisy, it's going to be this, that and the other. We showed them the evidence, batted it out of the park, not a problem. Planning took about 5 months to get through. 6 months. We went over Christmas, and people don't do anything at Christmas. So let's just say 6 months. So from buying it to having it able to get us then rented at 8 beds took about a year. Got the planning, rented out the other 2, and at the same time we applied for refinancing. What we did at this point, because we changed the use of the property, we were able to apply for a commercial valuation, not a bricks and mortar valuation. And the difference is they don't value the house, they value the rental income and give you a valuation of the property based on the rental income as a business. I can go through the calculation, I'm not going to do it right now, but the calculation allowed us to get a valuation of about $400,000. So even though we bought it at that and spent that on it, if we went to then sell it, we'd probably get about $340 on the open market. We managed to get about an extra 60 grand out of it by doing the commercial valuation. We refinanced it on a really good product at 80% loan to value, which meant I pulled out $320,000. yeah, which paid for everything here. So this was the new mortgage, paid for the old mortgage, paid for the refurbishment, and gave me £3,000 in my pocket. So all the money I put into it, we pulled out. It's now paying us X amount profit on a monthly basis. And what do? Rinse and repeat. Go and do it again. This property is in Felixstowe, so it can be done around here. So they've asked us to give you a little gem, and what could we offer you for coming here and speaking to you tonight? So to give you I've gone through the rules, to give you a little free gift, what we will do is, if you want to offer up your business card and put it into the pot as a bit of a raffle. Not only do we do property refurbishment, we work as consultants to tell you how you can maximise your profit income from your own portfolio if you've got property. We will offer a free Skype consultation, whether that's 10 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, to talk through your property, and we can help you maximise what you've currently got in it, whether or not that's converting stuff to HMOs or looking at other property strategies through rent to rent or serviced accommodation, etc. We'll give you our time to talk you through and help you on your journey. Okay. For those of you that want to contact us and talk to us outside, you can either call us at info@lakeviewpropertygroup.com, or this week our servers are down, so email me on my personal email. But you can contact us, and obviously when things are back up and running, which should be in a day or two, you should be able to get through to us on that. So thank you very much. Anything from you?
That's it. I think we covered it all. Any more questions, please ask.